Good morning. I'm Chandler, Executive Director at AGAPE, and we are here at the AGAPE main office Friday the 13th. Hope you're having a good morning, and looks like it's going to be a beautiful weekend for all of us to enjoy. In our continuing series of AGAPE Behind the Scenes, this is our second Facebook Live with our directors of our various programs at AGAPE, and today we'll be speaking with Rachel Herman. Rachel is our shelter program manager or shelter director manager at the Morningstar Domestic Violence Shelter, and we're looking forward to hearing a few things from her. But first, what I want to tell you is this room that we're in, as we mentioned last week, in case you weren't with us, this is AGAPE's family room, and so many things happen here that are so much a part of AGAPE. Adoption meetings are here for the very first time. Often children who are in foster care. This is a room where they often will visit with their biological parents or family members or siblings here at AGAPE. This is also a room where we often have family counseling sessions in our counseling program. So this is a very special room. It's a room that is used greatly here for a lot of the work that we do. As we say, the emotions are quite different here from time to time, from some very challenging and sad and broken moments to some of the greatest joy and hallelujahs that we experience here at AGAPE, and all of that and in between happens here in this room. So we're thankful to have this opportunity to be with you and to share that with you here in this room today. So as we jump in, I'm just going to ask Rachel just a few questions, and good to have you here today.
Good to be here.
We're glad to have you, Rachel. You know, we maybe have a little fun about that here today if we get some time. But first of all, let's just start out, if we would, and kind of I'll do what I did with Jason last week when we were doing the counseling program. Just tell us a little bit about Rachel.
Yeah. So I grew up in Indiana. So that was where I was raised into a loving Christian family. So I have an older brother that lives in Michigan with my niece and my sister-in-law, and then both my parents still live in Indiana. Like I said, Christian family. Grew up kind of with parents that modeled, man, let's just get out of the four walls of the church and let's just love on people. My father was a minister and a pastor, and my mom a teacher. So I just knew that this is the work that we do, as we just get out and we love on people. So that's where I grew up, and went to school, went to a small university, Christian university in Indiana, where I studied social work and addiction counseling, and so that was just kind of my progression of getting into the field of a helping profession.
Well, as was recently stated to a Supreme Court nominee in an eventual selection, you wear that faith well, and we are blessed to have you here. What has it been? A year?
So it's been a little over 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah.
2 years, and we were, you kind of delayed on us a little bit there. We delayed on you. I don't remember what it was, but we were thankful that you were here to take that particular role at the time, and then to step into this leadership role as well. And you're a joy to have in our meetings, and it's just really great to have you here.
Well, it was definitely, I was reflecting this morning, knowing we're going to jump into this, reflecting the morning that I heard about. I'd heard about AGAPE, knew about it because I'd been in Nashville for 7 years, knew the reputation, but I remember the morning that I heard about you guys and Morningstar. Sitting at a dining room table with a friend, and I think she was meeting with you and interviewing with you.
That's right. I forgot about that.
And she was like, I think you would actually like to work here. And I just remember praying that morning, feeling that the Lord was leading me in a new direction, had a new adventure, and here we are 2 years later.
Well, and the Lord works things out. He did. He worked that particular thing, that particular situation out. So, and what brought you here was the Morningstar. Our adoption of AGAPE's adoption and coming together of Morningstar and AGAPE in 2000 and what would that have been? I guess 2018 when it was sort of official. We spent a good bit of 2017 working on that with the Morningstar board and their staff. But of course, Morning Star's been around for a long time as a domestic violence shelter, and also their advocacy program at now the Family Safety Center, but in those days it was at Night Court, and I guess 30 plus years. So it's certainly a long history of serving this community in Morning Star. So AGAPE was very blessed and honored and challenged to sort of absorb and take on that program. But I think it's gone well. I think I like to think that it was. I know our board, the AGAPE board, most of those members are actually still on that our board now. That were a part of that, and of course some of the Morning Star board members have now are part of the overall AGAPE board. And I just know there was a lot of prayer and a lot of due diligence and a lot of thought and questions about whether this was the right thing, and the Lord continued. Where there could have been closed doors, the Lord continued to keep those doors wide open as we walked through them. So it was certainly something that I felt like we all felt like was something that the community needed, and from a faith standpoint. So really, the question I want to ask you a little bit around that is, you didn't really know, you weren't really a part of that.
Yeah.
We hired you once we sort of solved all that and solidified the arrangement. And so I'm kind of curious, as you've been out in the community working with the domestic violence community, so I'd like to maybe just share with folks kind of what maybe has been the difference, if there's been a difference. How has the domestic violence community sort of received this merger, this adoption? I kind of I think it'd be good to hear from that.
Yeah, like you said, I came on board just shortly after this adoption, and that was one thing that I know that was on the heart of AGAPE and for this team that stepped in to really kind of make a presence in the domestic violence community, make a presence here in Nashville. And so we've been really received in that. I constantly am hearing from other community workers that we're in collaboration with, or Metro Police, that they're just thankful we're here.
Yeah. They
see the presence. They see just this hopeful place that stands up and says, we're going to stand with the victim. We're going to provide a place of safety. And, it's a big compliment when I hear community partners say, man, you guys just are so good at what you do. You're passionate about what you do. You put all your work into these victims. And so we have just gotten a really great response. We have a team out there that not only wants to really serve these victims on our shelter and our court program and mentoring, but we really want to work with the Nashville community to really see this change. And so we've just had really receptive people. Like you said, it's been a new experience for AGAPE to step into the domestic violence, and we've come along some people that have really helped us in that, and we've helped them, and so it is, and it's such an important thing. Morning Star is one of 2 domestic violence shelters here in Nashville, and so AGAPE is saying, hey, we're going to step up and we're going to do this. Made sure that there was beds available for people that were in need, that were fleeing this cycle of abuse, and so I think there's just an appreciation over that we want to do that. And then we bring faith. Yeah. We bring workers into the field every single day that when they're driving into work, they're praying about the work. They're praying about the situations. So-and-so is going to court, or they've got this case, or we've got to find housing. And we're just seeing the Lord work and move. And people are seeing that in the community, that we're just having great success in this field. And so it's been a great process, and we've continued to grow and expand, and I think that has brought a lot of excitement. We have a staff member that used to intern at Morning Star, and I sat down with her probably a couple months ago and said, what's your favorite part of your job? And she goes, I have just loved seeing the growth that Morning Star has had, and she has so much history in the past working here, so she can really attest to how much Morning Star has grown as a program and what we're doing in the community for victims. So it's been a fun journey.
Well, I think about the fact we doubled the number of beds and staff, and what that took, and what you sort of took on, when it wasn't just, hey, we adopted this program. Not only were we adopting it, we're expanding it,
Yeah.
not only the number of beds that we're serving, but a little bit of programs internally and case management and so forth. So it's I know it's been a big task. It's hard work, and I think each time I go out there and I see mostly women, well out at the shelter all women and children, and I see them and you really realize sort of the I don't want to use the word brokenness, but sort of the real depth of the challenges that people face that a lot of us don't. It's never even something that crosses our mind, and they have to deal with it every day. So I want to ask you maybe just share a little bit, talk a little bit about, you're a victim of domestic violence. You need to get away, and just talk about maybe how that process happens at Morning Star and at our shelter there, and then maybe just then carry it on into what it looks like for a victim to be in shelter.
Yeah, for sure. Like you said, it's not a thought that I wake up every morning going, if I'm going to be safe or alive.
Yeah.
And a thing that we constantly say in our team and our staff is people reaching out to come to shelter to get help is their bravest moment.
The bravest moment.
Their bravest moment where they say, I've got to find a window of opportunity. And that's normally what it is. It is a window of opportunity. Normally it's only minutes that they can say, I've got to find a way to get help. I've got to find a way to get out of this situation. So we have a 24-hour hotline number where advocates are there ready to help people. And that is just, they reach out and say, man, this is what I've experienced. This is what I'm going through. And we are a secure, physically safe, confidential location. So we're walking those people through that process to get them from that place of emergency, that violent situation, into the care and shelter. So we kind of have a series of safety things that we do to get them onto our premise and make sure that this is a good place, a suitable place, a safe place for them. And then they walk through the door. Sometimes they walk through the doors with only the clothes on their back.
And I don't. We won't go into the details of how just that process, from the phone call to them being at the shelter and all confidentially, that has to go on. It's not like you just show up, park your car, and hey, I'm here. I mean, it's just all that has to go on from a safety and confidentiality. So I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I'm not sure people always understand that.
It's like almost like a secret operation in a sense, where there are a lot of details, a lot of moving pieces. Luckily, with a great relationship with Metro Police, that sometimes gets involved in those situations, and so we do. They come into our shelter, and the unique thing about Morning Star, it's a home setting. Yeah. So instantly they are welcomed into a beautiful setting that is physically safe, that is welcoming. A lot of times they sit down, do you need some food? And so they're there for about 60 days. And in that 60 days, we individually meet the needs and set kind of goals with them of, some need jobs, some need housing. Pretty much all of them need housing. They might need daycare for their kids or education and so forth. And so we work with case managers. They're providing emotional and physical safety, doing some safety planning. We've got those advocates doing that as well. And then we have a counselor. You met with Dr. Cooper last week and got to hear a little bit about that program. And so that's part of the partnership between departments. And we've got a counselor that's out there and able and willing to do support groups with the ladies and do individual counseling with the ladies and children there. And so that's kind of what a general day is we're just trying to kind of reset a course and imagine kind of a restart. We are a restart place where people just kind of start from ground zero, and we help them rebuild their lives.
So I'm going to throw you a little curve, because this wasn't on the script that we kind of shared with each other before. So maybe give us a little, maybe just a story. Think for just a minute. I'll keep talking here and give you a chance to think about it. Maybe just a little story around one of the victims, and of course the idea is, we on two sides of our program, we have the mentoring program that Mary Lee and Linda and their crew is so involved in, of survivors. They're survivors, but on this end, it's more of the you're a victim. You're still a victim of this brokenness. So maybe just share a quick little story about somebody in the shelter that you can share, and just what something that may have happened to them, or just how the shelter was able to help them.
Yeah, you asked that question, and it's not, can I think of a story? It's trying to
which
think
one?
of which one. Yeah. Because we have so many incredible stories. I can specifically think of one that recently just reached out and just gave us an update.
Yeah.
And she was there exactly 60 days. And in that time, she was able to get a job. She was able to get her license for the first time. She had tried to leave her abuser about 7 times. And that's actually, nationally, that's a statistic.
Yeah.
7 times. And she just let us know, she goes, I've tried to do it many times, and I've tried to do it alone. But this time it worked because I didn't do it alone. Yeah. Because I had people there, staff there supporting me. I had a physical safety, and I had support. And so in that process, she was able to get a license, get a job, get housing, and get a car. I don't know if I can do that in 60 days. I mean, we were in the miracle business out there. I'm always amazed what the Lord pulls off in those periods of time. And so she wrote the sweetest kind of note as we left of these, you were all my angels.
Yeah.
You know,
shared that with me. It was pretty special.
It was a special one.
So you mentioned how you got that done in 60 days. Well, maybe the reason you can't get it done in 60 days is because you don't have a Morningstar, AGAPE Morningstar caseworker helping you with that.
Yeah.
So just real quick, and we're going to kind of wrap this up in a minute. So kind of explain, we have case managers and we have advocates. Just kind of quickly talk about the difference of those two and what their roles are out there.
Yeah, for sure. So our case managers specifically are working towards goals to set them up when they leave. So they're future focused. So they're looking at ways to get them those housing, to get those jobs, that stability. Our case managers also serve kind of on some community boards and panels to talk about the greater safety of Nashville. So they're kind of planning and working towards what life is going to be like afterwards. They're going to connect them with the mentoring group. They're going to connect them with other resources. Our advocates are there 24/7. We've got advocates that are going to be there on Thanksgiving, sharing a meal with them. On Christmas Day, those advocates are providing that physical and emotional safety.
Yeah.
And so they're helping them safety plan. They're helping them kind of just navigate the day-to-day things. If they've got to go to court, they're helping them prep for court. They're the ones answering the hotline calls. They're the ones doing the intakes. So they're that 24/7 support.
So today at the shelter, how many children do we have at the shelter?
Today at the shelter, we have 8 children.
8 children. So on any given day, we could have, right now, probably 10. It's probably about as many as we're going to have, but because of COVID and some things we're having to work through around quarantine and availability of beds for that. But so that's.
But we've had moms come in with 7 children.
7 children. I remember that well.
They almost took over a whole house.
Yeah,
it just fluctuates the needs. Sometimes we have more.
So as we kind of close out, let's just, I want to ask, just sort of share, what would you want people to know? Maybe there's a misconception, or maybe just something that you want to share, and maybe also include maybe how people can get involved and help with that as well. So.
Yeah, I think something to know really about domestic violence, it does not hit one population, one gender, one race, one social economic situation. It impacts everyone. And so you might know someone right now that's going through it, and it doesn't always look like a bruise on the face.
Right.
A lot of times it's covered up. They're showing up at work. They're doing their day-to-day life. And so I think it's just the awareness that it's happening in our city. It's happening in our churches. People know I do this work, and so they call me, and I'm constantly surprised of those stories. And so Morningstar does exist if you have that situation, if you know a friend or a neighbor that's going through it and you don't know how to support them, give us a call. Our hotline's totally there even to just help you walk with that person and give that pathway of safety. But I think think there's just a lot of misconceptions about who it is or what part of Nashville or so forth. And it really is. It's prevalent all over. And it's a place really where the church can step in, where people can be support in that. And we have faithful supporters. We've got the mentoring program, as you mentioned, that people are mentoring people through this, because this is a lifelong journey of healing, and there needs to be people that are wrapping around that. So that's how volunteers have gotten to partner with that. We've got Christmas coming up, and so we're finding, I was brainstorming with our staff some special ways to celebrate that. Constantly, I said, the amount of toilet paper that we go through, it's just so crazy. The amount of,
TMI.
you know, the amount of just laundry detergent. Like, we are meeting the basic needs of people.
Yeah.
And so there's those types of ways that we've had faithful people join us in this adventure of really supporting people.
Well, I think thanks for coming today, and I know you're probably heading out there as soon as we get finished, but thankful for you, thankful for your team, and you know, I just think about our 2-year journey and with the building that team out there, and you've just done a great, and your team's done a great job with that as well. So thank you for being here, and so thank you guys for joining us today. Next week. We will have Amy Parker. Amy Parker is our social services director, and today I believe we have about 64, 65 children in care. She'll have some things to tell you about foster care, talk a little bit about that, our foster care, and our adoption program there. I believe we've already had 4 adoptions already this year, and I think there's 3 more we think are going to happen before the end of this year. So not only our foster care program, but also our adoption program. So join us next week, next Friday, 9 o'clock as well. Before we leave, I do want to just say, if anyone here knows anyone, or if you yourself, I believe the national statistic is 1 in 4 women will experience some form of domestic abuse, whether it be physical, verbal, emotional in their lifetime. So we want to give you our hotline number to call. That number is 615-860-0003. 615-860-0003. And if we can help you in any way, don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you again for joining us today. Have a great Friday and have a great weekend.